Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I grew up in a family of four. My parents, my older brother Jake, and me, 32 female. Jake was 3 years older. And to my parents, he was everything they'd ever dreamed of in a child. He was athletic, outgoing, and excelled in school. I was quieter, more reserved, nerdy, and preferred reading books or drawing in my room to participating in sports or school activities. From as far back as I can remember, my parents had a clear favorite, and it wasn't me. Jake was the golden boy, the pride of the family. My parents attended every one of his games, celebrated every achievement like it was a national holiday, and constantly praised him in front of friends and relatives. I was always introduced as Jake's little sister, as if my identity only existed in relation to him. When Jake got in trouble, which wasn't often, my parents would brush it off with a laugh and a boys will be boys excuse. When I made a mistake, however, it was a different story. Forgetting to do a chore or scoring less than an A on a test would result in lectures about responsibility and how I needed to try harder to be more like Jake. As we grew older, the favoritism became more apparent. Jake got a brand new bike for his 12th birthday. I got his old scratched up one for mine. When Jake turned 16, my parents bought him a car, a used but decent sedan. When I turned 16, I asked if I could borrow the car to get to my part-time job. My mom said, "Girls don't need cars, honey. We'll drop you off." That never happened, and I ended up walking or taking the bus. I started working at 16 because I wanted some independence. Every penny I earned went into savings or buying necessities for myself. Clothes, school supplies, or even small indulgences like a book or a meal out with friends. Meanwhile, Jake had no job and got an allowance. My parents would often ask me to lend Jake money if he needed it, promising they'd pay me back. They rarely did. When Jake struggled with school, my parents hired private tutors and met with teachers to ensure he succeeded. When I struggled, they told me to figure it out because I was smart enough to handle it on my own. I started to realize that no matter what I did, it would never be enough. By the time I turned 18, I had saved enough money to move out. I couldn't take the constant comparisons and dismissals any longer. My parents barely noticed when I packed my things. My mom said, "Don't be dramatic, honey. You'll be back soon." My dad joked that I wouldn't last a month on my own, but I did. I worked multiple jobs while going to college, scraping by with no financial help from my family. It wasn't easy, but for the first time in my life, I felt free. I could make my own decisions and live without feeling like an afterthought or a loser. In the years that followed, I occasionally tried to reach out to my parents. Calls were brief and surface level, mostly focused on Jake and his life. My mom would gush about his new job or his latest girlfriend, then casually ask, "So are you still doing that little job of yours?" It was clear they had no real interest in my life, so I stopped calling. The years went by, and I poured all my energy into building a better future. I graduated from college, landed a great job, and eventually started my own business. Through hard work and determination, I managed to do well for myself. I bought a house, traveled, and built a small circle of friends who became my chosen family. Jake and I hadn't spoken in years. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was still living at home, working sporadically, and relying heavily on my parents for financial support. Whenever I thought about my childhood, I reminded myself that I was better off on my own. A few months ago, I got a phone call from an unfamiliar number. When I answered, it was my mom. I was shocked. I hadn't heard from her in nearly a decade. She was crying, and before I could process what was happening, she blurted out, "Jake's gone!" I sat there, stunned, as she explained that Jake had passed away unexpectedly a few years earlier. She didn't offer many details, but it was clear that his death had devastated my parents. She said they tried to reach me, but didn't know how, so they hired a private investigator to track me down. Before I could even process my emotions, my mom started talking about how she and my dad were getting older and needed someone to help take care of them. She said, "We've lost Jake, and you're all we have left." My dad got on the phone and said, "It's time to come home, sweetie. Family takes care of family." I felt anger, sadness, and disbelief. For years, I had been treated like I didn't matter, and now that Jake was gone, I was suddenly all they had left. It was clear they didn't want me back because they missed me. They wanted me back because they need something from me. I told them I was sorry for their loss, but that I couldn't be the person they wanted me to be. I reminded them of how they had treated me growing up and how I had to leave to protect myself. I said I had built a life for myself, one that I wasn't willing to give up. My mom started crying again, saying I was being cruel and heartless. My dad accused me of being selfish and holding a grudge. They both insisted that it was my duty as their daughter to take care of them in their old age. I told them I wished them well, but that I couldn't help them, then hung up. Since that call, my parents have tried to contact me multiple times. They've left voicemails, sent emails, and even written letters. My mom's messages are filled with guilt trips about how hard it is for them without Jake. My dad's messages are more direct, accusing me of abandoning my family. I've also heard from a few relatives who say I should forgive my parents and help them. One cousin even said, "They're your parents. They did their best, and now they need you." But did they do their best? I don't think so. They made it abundantly clear throughout my life that I was a distant second to Jake. They only care about me now because they have no one else. I'm not proud of how things turned out. I'm sad and heartbroken my brother is gone. I wish my relationship with my parents had been different. I wish they had seen my worth and treated me with the love and respect every child deserves. But I've learned that I can't change the past, and I can't sacrifice my happiness and well-being to fix a relationship that was never built on mutual respect. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to come back and take care of my parents after everything they put me through? OP is not a backup plan for when their golden child is gone. They treated OP poorly her entire life, and now that they're in need, they suddenly want to act like OP is part of the family? That's not how it works. OP has built a life for herself, and she has every right to protect it. OP should not let anyone guilt her into sacrificing her happiness and freedom for people who never prioritized her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole, but wow, your parents' audacity is off the charts. They ignored you for years, treated you as less than, and now that they're old and Jake isn't around, they're suddenly interested in having a relationship? I'm sorry for their loss, but that doesn't erase what they put you through. You have no obligation to take care of them, especially when they only reached out because they need something from you. Stand your ground, OP. You've come too far to let them drag you back into their toxicity. I think this is a classic case of family doesn't mean unconditional access. Your parents only see you as a caretaker now, not as a person with your own life and boundaries. It's incredibly telling that they had to hire a private investigator to find you. They didn't even know how to reach you after 10 years because they never bothered to maintain a relationship. That's on them, not you. Not the a-hole. Keep living your life, OP. You've earned it. 21 years ago, I inherited a house that I did not want to live in at the time and was considering selling. My grandmother needed a place to live and wanted to live in the house, but could not afford to buy it. We agreed that she would live in it without paying rent directly, but would pay other costs associated with keeping the house rather than selling it, property tax, utilities, etc. With this arrangement, she paid less than the market value for rent for the property and had full control to do whatever she wanted with it, while I didn't have to worry about the house or being a landlord. I know that in retrospect this probably wasn't the smartest arrangement legally speaking, but I was barely out of high school when it began and didn't know any better. And as the years went by, I just never thought to fix what wasn't broken. I did maintain my own insurance policy on the house for my own protection, but that's about it. We never drew up a formal contract of any kind, and we never had any conflicts about the arrangement. She has recently passed away, and I'm considering living in the house myself as I now moved back to the area. However, I've been contacted by her daughter, my aunt, and the heir to her will. She wants to move into the house herself with her daughter. In short, she believes that because my grandmother paid the cost of the house for so long, my grandmother has at least some ownership right to the house. She also believes that if you consider my grandmother a renter, as her child she has the right to take up residence in the house on the same terms my grandmother had, i.e., not paying rent. Even if I weren't looking to live in the house myself, I would be concerned about this aunt living in the property. She has a heavy criminal background including felonies, and in terms of rental history, I know she has at least 3 evictions. I will consult a lawyer if needed, but wanted to get some advice first as to whether that is necessary. I'm not sure whether I should be concerned about the situation or if it is just talk. Simply reply back, "No, Grandma had no legal ownership," and "No, you may not live in my house." Then make sure the locks are changed and the property is secure so she can't get in as a squatter. Your aunt has no legal ground to stand on. Change the locks ASAP if rent has not been paid for March. If there's an executor of the estate, contact that person about them getting your grandmother's belongings out of the house. I'm going to say this right away. My parents were Bible-thumping hypocrites. They were completely the definition of it during the early and later years of my life. They would not allow any forms of magic, Pokemon, PG-13, unless Christian-related, or any parties growing up. I was not allowed to have friends over or even allowed to talk to women of any kind growing up, and when I did, my older brother was more suited to take them as his own. At one time, my family had a family friend with a beautiful country girl daughter, whom I fell hard for. I told my parents, and my mom simply rolled her eyes and told me, "Sweetheart, she wouldn't even notice you." Even though me and her were friends and we had clear chemistry. But no, my mom encouraged, kind of pushed my older brother to be with her. They started dating the day I told my parents that I liked her. Duck that. I since then have hidden how I feel about women I thought I liked, and discarded the ideas, since my older brother would attempt and successfully take them from me before I even had a shot. Thanks to my mom, my older brother thought he was the hottest man alive, while me, having a slim build but looked like the dork, glasses, dork smile, and green eyes, was just a teddy bear that girls grow up from, as he put it, was how he viewed things. My parents have always wanted to pick my girlfriend and demand this 3-month cycle. 3 months dating, 3 months engaged, then married. Funny, since they were dating for a year and engaged for a year. Also, my family had strict rules for dating. 1. The age rule went from 16 to 18 to moved out and has a stable job. 2. Must be courting. A sibling or parent must be at all dates. 3. No passionate hugging. If you know whom I'm referencing, you're cool in my book. 4. No friends of the opposite gender. Those rules were grilled into me, and my older brother broke many of these, as did my sister below me, but those are for another day. I constantly had to follow the rules, and I wasn't able to date, ever, until I was a year into the U.S. Army. I served in the U.S. Army as a military policeman at this time, and have for a year. I was depressed as I didn't have many friends, thanks to me not fitting in as much. Wonder why? Maybe from zero social skills that I got from being homeschooled, and not allowed to go out and get friends outside of homeschool groups or work. And I was constantly getting told that I was better off dead by some of the Joes in leadership. That is not a joke, and I had reported them many times. Some actually faced legal UCMJ action. My head was in a funk, so that's when my parents thought, instead of them being supportive and being there for me, they got me her. Her referring to a woman 1 year older than me, who we will call Alice. Alice had a bad relationship prior to me, with a 4-year-old child. She was not attractive to me, and I had no interest in a romantic relationship at the time. I just wanted to feel supported, not in a romance way. Not only that, my parents told me straight up, she and you will date. And my siblings, all 11 at the time. Yes, 11. I have 11 siblings. Agreed and said, she is so cute and has a baby. So I reluctantly agreed to this relationship, even though she lived far away from me, so it had to be over the phone. The red flags. Alice was telling her daughter to call me dad after 1 week of us talking. 1 ducking week. I didn't say I love her or even liked her. No, I was dad to this innocent girl who, of course, was adorable. I didn't like Alice, but the little girl who I'll call June stole my heart. June was cute, shy, and her words for me were always "daddy" in the sweetest voice ever. And let me say, June had my heart. Well, then again, you have a small little girl looking at you like you are her world. It hurts to say you're not and warms your soul. But Alice didn't. Alice knew I fell for June and decided that whenever me and her had an argument, June was her weapon of choice. One time me and her were arguing about me going to the field to train, and I had to leave my phone. Alice demanded I took my phone so June could see her daddy. My heart raged with anger and I hung up. Then Alice called my parents, and sure enough, I got a phone call from my mom, EP. I answered immediately. Me. Hello, Mama. EP. Hi, OP. How are you doing? Me. I'm doing fine. Worn out from packing to go to the field. I had told her that I'm leaving a week prior. EP. Oh, are you bringing your phone? Me. Sadly, I can't. I have to focus on training. EP. Oh, you made Alice cry, by the way. Me, now pissed that Alice went and told my mom all this. I don't care at the moment. She tried to use June as a weapon to have me break the rules. EP. Well, you could just bring it without them knowing. Sneak it in so she can see you. Me. Mom, I can't just do that. I was already in deep water for texting my mom during a range to tell her, conveniently, that I was not talking to Alice while I was going to the field. EP. Oh, I was just trying to make things good for you two. I love you. Me. I love you too. After she hung up, I turned off my phone. I didn't need any more of that. I went to the field and had a genuine crap time, thanks to my squad making me do the most tasks of weapons and fire guard. And when the mission came, they left me to do the guarding and not go fire my weapon or get any real training. Once back home, I turned on my phone to see 1,000+ messages from both Alice and my mom. 15 missed calls, and my favorite, 2 handwritten letters about how I was a jerk for leaving June without a goodbye from Alice. I was pissed and called it off that night. I was done. I told Alice to leave me alone, and I broke up with her. And I also told my parents not to talk to me for a bit. I was pissed. They knew that I had some big training going on and decided to not only not support me, but to try and make me in trouble. But also make me feel guilty when I get home. I kept off my Facebook and the like to avoid social media. I read my Bible and my study guides during this time with my outlet of Dead by Daylight. A week passes and I finally unmute my messenger, my way of talking to Alice, as she didn't have a landline number, or as she told me. Holy Captain America! She sent me 3 paragraphs of text per 6 hours, videos of June crying for her dad, called me several times, and even re-recorded herself crying. She begged for me to take her back. I said no. My mom, apparently without telling me, told her I was in love with her and just didn't know it yet, so she was all hyped on it. Also, it was 3 months into our relationship. My parents made me spend my savings on a ring. They threatened to disown me if I didn't do it. They kept telling me, you don't have to get engaged to her, but if you do, you will have 0 problems in life, and the army will be so much easier, and you will be able to have June as your daughter, fully. Yes, my mom said that. My dad was not as pushy, so he doesn't get the entitled treatment. He was trying to stop my mom from overdoing it, but he also was supporting her more so. He just knew where to draw lines. He told me that I am breaking her heart by not making a choice. I didn't want to make a choice. I didn't love her at all. Unlike Alice, who told me that she loves me so much, she will be willing to take my virginity. Side note, she never did, thankfully. I drew the line there, but my parents then started to make me feel like crap. How I was hurting June, lying to her that I was her dad, then I didn't even marry Alice. Or, you were just after the fun and making us cry, even though me and her never even met in person. So, I did. I got engaged to her. About a week in, a female soldier from my company came to me crying. She was pregnant, and her baby daddy was lying about her and trying to punish her for not getting an A, as she was pro-life. I stood up for her one time, so she considered me a friend. She told me one day she needed to talk to someone offline about the things, and she trusted me. So I agreed to meet her after work. I knew she was in a bad spot with her baby daddy and his friends pushing her. So I told my mom and Alice that I was going to be out with a friend who was in a rough spot. I made the mistake and said, she has been going through a rough spot, so we are going out to talk. And Alice yelled at me that I was cheating on her. She grabbed a knife, and on the phone, I heard her scream. She yelled in pain. She then sent me photos. She cut herself, had fresh cuts down her arm and scars. She threatened to do more. I did the only thing I could do, told her to stop and called her mom. She, her mom, told me there was nothing she could do about her daughter. The duck? She complained on and on about how it's my job as her fiancé, and I should always bend to her needs over mine. I explained that a soldier needed a person to talk to, and she wouldn't take it. I just ended up leaving to be there for my friend, and my friend thanked me and asked me how my life was. I told her that everything is fine. The following day, things got worse. My ex-fiancé posted "cheater" on my Facebook and called my friend a loose man-stealer over her page. We both got attacked by everyone, and it took the both of us to explain all me and her did was talk and have a meal. No romantic evaluation to it. She and I were just pissed, and our friendship ended. I broke up with my fiancée on it and told her not to speak to me again. She then told my parents that she was going to K herself from the mental trauma I gave her by being so rude and selfish. My entitled mother called me and demanded I get back with her. I promptly told her no. A few weeks pass. I have no sleep. Not from breaking up with Alice, not from my entitled mother trying to get me back with her, but from the fact I was receiving phone call by text, email, hourly, sometimes in minute fractions. I yelled at Alice to leave me alone, and she then showed her arms she cut open and new scars, and said it was getting worse because she still loved me. I reluctantly agreed to stay in contact, but she took it as me and her are engaged again, and slid back on her ring and called my mom promptly, and my entitled mother called me and said, "Glad you came to your senses and did the right thing." The truth comes out cold. I remember this day like no other. My beat friend, we will call Nick, called me up. I was up playing my favorite game of Fossil Fighters Champions on my DS and answered. Me. "Hey, Nick." Nick. "Dude, break up with her." Me. Confused, but sighs. "Nick, I want to so badly, but my folks." I get cut off by Nick. "She sent nudes to my roommate." Me. Not shocked, but still stunned, as I drop my DS. "What?" Nick then proceeds to tell me he learned from his roommate. His roommate was basically talking to Alice since they met via her talking to Nick one day to ask about me. Alice apparently took his number and talked to him every day. She asked him questions about him, and that day, he asked her if she thought he was cute. Alice said yes, and then proceeded to send a nude of herself to him and asked him, "Am I hot?" The roommate then proceeded to have phone s with her, aware that me and her were together at this point in time. They did this for as long as me and Alice were together, even making plans to meet. My heart, no longer feeling anything, thanked Nick and talked to Alice to get the truth. She denied it all and told me I'm not thinking right, even getting my mom involved. But then I got the transcripts from Nick and sent them to my entitled mom and her. Alice cried and begged for me to forgive her. My entitled mom even told me this was just a mistake and could be forgiven, then told me that I should get back with her. I denied her and have never talked to Alice since. Another note, my older brother laughed when he found out and told me she was sending him nudes as well and wanted to meet at a family function to fool around with him, which he then showed me as transcripts of messages with her and was very proud of it. I hated him ever since, but still love him today. As for Alice, well, she tried to guilt trip me, and I didn't have any of it. I blocked her on all my socials, as did my family, still unsure of my older brother. And my entitled mother tried to coax me a few times, but even my dad was fed up with her crap. He told her to back off and let me pick. As I learned, he only agreed to this because he saw I was broken from being alone in Hawaii all by myself, and my mom told him it's the best thing for him. It's been 2 years, and now I'm with a beautiful girlfriend whom I chose to be with. I love her, and she has not turned her back on me, as she knows about the stuff I've been through. My entitled mother has apologized, and me and her are on good terms, though she is not touching my relationship with my current girlfriend, whom I have a ring for and plan to get engaged over the holidays. Thanks again for reading, and Alice, if you're reading this, I forgive you, but I will never forget. To you readers, I'm sorry if I seem all over the place. I just hate re-experiencing this. I just need to get it off my chest and get some good feedback on what I should have done. My God, I'm so sorry you had to go through all that. That is not how a parent should treat their child. It almost sounded like you were the scapegoat and your brother was the golden child. Honestly, I just would not be able to forgive my parents for putting me through hell like that. She's a nut. Your parents are a-hole control freaks, and although I feel bad for the little girl caught in the middle, which was her own mother's fault, I'm glad you finally got away from their BS and you're in a happy, healthy relationship. Wow. You even forgave Alice, even though you will never forget. That is deep.